It takes me about 10 minutes to drive there. I have 3 dogs that do pet therapy. We visit various locations. Dogs and cats too, they can sense when somebody needs a little extra time and love. One day I was visiting with Mercedes at the hospital, and I was walking by one of the rooms. Mercedes stopped in front of that room, and I looked at the room number and I'm like, no honey, we're not going to that room. But she was adamant she wanted to go into that room. And the nurses noticed that and they said, well, let's see if we can get the permission form signed. So we went in and she laid down with this person, and there was a great deal of chatter. We had a good time talking about, you know, dogs and everything, and all of a sudden this patient fell asleep. And the nurses were all chattering, chatter, chatter, chatter. And I thought, what? There's no big deal. They just fell asleep. But after everything was all said and done, they told me that this particular patient had such an uneasy time and was not sleeping well. And this is the first restful sleep that that patient had had. I think animals do sense people's emotions and feelings. Sometimes if I'm sad, all my dogs and cats will rally around me and just be with me. It's not like I've asked them to be with me. They just come to the room and sit with me. A lot of people tell me stories about their dogs they used to have when they were growing up.
If I'm upset, stressed out, they know exactly what you. My husband was just as crazy about dogs as I, so I'd say, there's this German Shepherd at the kennel and he needs a home, what do you think? And he took him over there and we went and he said, okay. So we had 3. And he was the biggest of those 3. And he came to the house and he wanted to be alpha dog, you know, he wanted to be the top one. And the little beagle said, oh no you don't. And he had him lying on his back with all 4 paws up in the air. And he said, okay, I give up. You're the top dog. Yeah.
So funny.
Yeah. How old are you, Mercedes?
Mercedes is 6 now.
6? Oh, you're just the baby of the family?
Yeah, yeah.
And how's your sister, huh?
She's awesome.
How's my boyfriend?
Your boyfriend's doing fine. He had a little bit of a sore back on Friday, and then we gave him his medicine, and then he's better.
He's better.
Yeah. Angelica and Buddy are the best friends, and then he's her boyfriend. Buddy, are you happy? Ready? You gonna sing? No? Whoop! Sing! You have to sing! Sing! What? No, loud! Big song! Sing! Yeah! There you go! He was very hand shy when I first touched him. People coming in like this over top of the dog, he would cower away. So we worked with him that a lot of positive reinforcement. The very first day, it was all wiggly and was just smiling the whole entire time. And people kept petting him and telling me how handsome he is, and they couldn't believe that he was a stray or a rescue. And I think he was so happy because the next time I came to visit, he was in the car, and as soon as I turned into the driveway of this nursing home, he started making all sorts of whiny, happy sounds in the back seat. So I went, okay, I think he likes his new job. When we're finished everything, you say thank you. What do we have to do? We have to bow. Okay, bow down. Good bow, yeah. Good boy. We live in a world that we're not allowed to touch anybody, but they can touch my dog.
I co-taught with Micah. Micah was really doing therapy. She wasn't merely coming and making visits. She was helping students to focus in class. She was helping them to bring their minds back to the present instead of having their tendency to ruminate in the past or sit in class worrying about the future. They were actively participating and very present in class. In addition, they felt a lot of joy. And in stroking her curly hair, they got soothed by the release of oxytocin in them as well as the dog, which is the bonding chemical or hormone. And so we do know that that hormone facilitates, is really at the foundation of the human-animal bond. Mothers and their children, they bond through oxytocin when they're breastfeeding. And we now have discovered through all the many scientific studies performed on humans with animals that the dogs and the humans benefit from this interaction.
When I was in college, I started feeling depressed and anxious and suicidal, and it was just a phase that I was going through. I still have those experiences, but I'm on medication now. I was first diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder in 1990. I'm doing much better, and I think the dogs help. I have less anxiety, a lot less depression, and more social connections of my life now with the dog, especially in the neighborhood where I'm comfortable with, and I bring the dog out in my neighborhood every single day, and I think it's really connected me to something. I think it's an important way to find some healing with companion animals, because some people may not have trust in other people. They might have been hurt by other people and the way that they've been treated if they have a mental illness. Some people are mistreated in the mental health system. You know, I don't think it's a purposeful mistreatment. I just think that some people don't know how to talk to someone with a mental illness, and it's a lack of education. But I think with the dog, it kind of frees you up. You know, it frees you of your fears and your hidden beliefs.
I did discover, though, in my naive days, I thought, oh, everybody loves dogs. I realized that there were some people that were afraid of dogs.
Sometimes people don't want to visit a therapy dog, and you have to be very respectful of that. Sometimes I have people who visit Buddy, let's say today they would visit Buddy and love him and want to kiss him and hug him and pet him, and then next week when I come and visit, they don't want to visit. And I don't take it personally. I don't know why they don't want to visit with him, but it's all okay. Everybody's needs are different, and everybody approaches your dog differently too. It's not just you could have a very, very good dog, but you want to have a good teamwork and also that you can communicate with people and feel comfortable. So the first step was an orientation, and that's where you shadow an experienced volunteer and what the requirements are of your dog. And then after that is the actual test or the pet therapy screening. The test is they need to be able to walk loose leash. They need to be comfortable in different environments. Sometimes people are running and scurrying about. Sometimes alarms go off. Vacuum cleaners might be running. Your dog needs to be comfortable with that environment. Needs to be comfortable with people touching. You know, sometimes people pet dogs kind of hard. You know, if it's a small dog, the dog has to be comfortable with being on somebody's lap. He has to be comfortable with equipment like wheelchairs and walkers. Also, he has to be able to leave things that might be on the floor. Sometimes there might be food items on the floor that you don't want your dog to pick up. So this is something, he needs to be part of you. Don't. And then after the screening, and once you've passed that test, then one of our experienced volunteers would help place you. So you would have somebody shadow you and make sure that you and your dog are a good team. We've gone to Boston University, Holy Cross, Framingham State. We are regular visitors. We're the only volunteer group at Mass General. I personally volunteer at Emerson Hospital. We have some volunteers at North Shore Hospital. We used to have a volunteer at South Shore Hospital, but the dog became ill, so they're not able to volunteer anymore. Newton Wellesley Hospital, and of course nursing homes and assisted living, some adult daycare. And we do also like a library read to dog program. That's exactly it with some of the children. It gives them confidence. They can read out loud, but they read out loud to the dog because the dog is not going to correct them, and they build up their own self-esteem and confidence.
A few years ago, I worked in a laboratory at one of the local universities, and we had a graduate student who died in the laboratory, and everyone was very, very sad. And so Joel brought Corey into the laboratory, and everyone was sitting around with a circle, and Corey was going up to different people and climbing into their lap and kissing their faces. And he became kind of a hero to the laboratory and helped everyone through that very, very difficult time.
He had a brain tumor, an inoperable brain tumor, and he was terminal. And I was told that he might throw a tray at us. He was going to be very abusive. And in the beginning, when I first came in with my Corgi, whose name was Holly, she was my first therapy dog, I said to him, "This is Holly, and I'd like you to meet her." And he said, "Get out." But little by little, we came back, and then he really welcomed us. He looked forward to us coming, and so much that he had his wife bring in an old picture of a dog that he had had, which obviously rekindled his spirit. The sad part came one day when I came into the facility and the room was empty. He had passed away, and that was a very, very touching time for me. Here's one of them getting ready for work, Piper.
Several occasions I've come across people who have owned dogs when they were younger, and when they see my dog come in and start to pat the dog, they seem to have a very happy look about them, reminiscent of when they were younger and they had their dog, which incidentally might have been a golden retriever. You might see a tear in their eye.
It's an incredibly rewarding thing to do, both for me as a human being, and the dogs really enjoy it as well.
My children were getting older, and I felt it was time to give something back. Can't always be on the taking end. It's time to give something back.
Many, many years ago, my son was hit by a car, and he was in the hospital, and he was very, very sick, and he was med-flighted into Boston. In his rehab, to help him walk and help him do things like brush his teeth for himself again, there were dogs there, and in order for him to be able to see the dog, he had to do his occupational therapy or his physical therapy. So when I adopted Buddy, I sensed a very kind nature in him, and I thought this would be a perfect way for me to give back to the volunteers that helped me.